Hey everybody, welcome back to the Look It Up podcast. This is your host, Elias Rouse. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRouseMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Dune Part 2 is a 2024 American epic science fiction film directed and produced by Denis Villeneuve, who co-wrote the screenplay with John Spadis. The sequel to Dune, which also adapts the sequel to Dune 2021, which also adapts the 1965 Dune by the novel Dune by Frank Herbert, which follows Paul Atreides as he unites with the Fremen, people of the desert planet Arrakis, to wage war against House Harkonnen. Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Zendaya, Charlotte Rampling, Javier Bardem reprise their roles from the first film. Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, Léa Seydoux, and Saulia Jakob joining the ensemble cast. Oh my God, that was a whole lot of people. Awesome cast. Love everyone. Development began in 2016, while production contracts were secured only for a first film. The second was greenlit after the critical and commercial success of the first film in October 2021. Most of the new cast members were announced in 2022. Principal photography took place in Budapest, Italy, Jordan, Abu Dhabi, between July and December 2022. Dune Part 2 was scheduled for November 3rd, 2023 release, but it was delayed due to the Hollywood labor disputes. The film had its world premiere at the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City on February 6th, 2024, and was released in the United States on March 1st. It received praise from critics and has grossed 79.8 million worldwide against its $190 million production budget, making it the third highest grossing film of 2024. I think it's going to continue to climb the ladders, considering there isn't much in its wake, in my opinion. Maybe Fall Guy might do a little bit of damage, but I'm curious how much damage that's actually going to do to Dune 2. I mean, what was it? Kung Fu Panda was the only other movie that could come in and actually do a little bit of eat a little bit of the box office lunch of Dune. But still, I think that a lot of these are still kind of different demographics, and Dune has such a strong ensemble cast. It's like, who throw a dart on the board, and you're gonna find an actor you absolutely are just enthralled with, and they're probably in the movie. So let's continue on. The movie from Dune 1 and Dune 2 basically has the same cast, almost everybody came back. From cinematographer Greg Fraser, edited by Joe Walker, music by Hans Zimmer. It's like, it transports you there. Holy shit. Screenplay, John Spadis and Denis Villeneuve. The only person we did not bring back was Eric Roth. I have absolutely no reason in my notes why he didn't come back. Denis Villeneuve obviously directed the first one. He's back for the second one, and ensemble cast is joined by even more hot talent. Continuing on, this movie is only 10 minutes longer than Dune 1, sitting at 165 minutes, which is still a thick boy. I was like, holy Santa Claus, 2 hours and 45 is still pretty thick, especially with the 30 minutes of trailers. Like, Regal don't play, AMC don't play. Does anywhere not have 30 minutes of trailers, like, for all of their stuff now? It's like, oh shit, it's like I had time to go grab multiple popcorns and snacks, go I come in and out, be 10 minutes late to this movie and it hadn't even started yet. I was like, this is kind of excessive, and I understand why people are walking in late now. Um, but yeah, so let me get things adjusted real quick for the plot for Dune. All right, we back. Sorry, I had to check on some things and take care of the dog. You already know I had to do all the this and that and the other. Oh my god, I literally was running around the house and whacked the back of my fucking back on the TV. God dang it. So if I just start randomly cussing, it's because my back hurts. Um, Sorry. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we were talking about the non non spoiler stuff. Getting ready to hop into the spoiler section here in a second. Make sure we have everything. Oh yeah, I wanted to go over my first initial thoughts of the film before we hop into the spoiler. So yeah, Dune 2, just like Dune 1, the look, the sound, the feel, the smooth edits, the flashbacks, all of the visual flair is pretty much there for Dune 2. There's very little from the technical standpoint that this movie does not evoke. It's impressive from every standpoint possible. Um, the one thing I did notice about Dune 2 in comparison to Dune 1 was this: the Dune 2 is feels like an even bigger story than Dune 1, and it expands the world as well. But there is this pacing that happens in the first Dune that I am not feeling in the second Dune. The second Dune has it's easier for me to compare it to the first one in comparison to the second one. I know it's two different movies, but it's Villeneuve says this is very much a part two to the part one of the film. So you have to, he says it's not a sequel in as much as it is a part two to the first half of the, you know, franchise of the film. And I agree with that. I'm gonna stick with that. So the first movie feels like it's almost blocked off in like three different sections, and it's very focused. The pacing feels very deliberate and focused. Everything that Villeneuve shoots feels very deliberate and focused. Um, from the color standpoint, the blocking, the look, the visual feel, anything he does feels like that. Um, the first movie does have a much better um, it feels like acknowledgement of the pacing because it's slower, deliberate, and it's explaining the process to the viewer as well as Paul Atreides, the main character, who is the avatar for this world, for us, up to a certain point. Until we're like, wait, do we want to follow this guy? Is do we agree with everything this guy's doing? That kind of thing. But we are still kind of like piggybacking on the back of Paul Atreides for the majority of a big chunk of the story, at least in the movies. Um, Not sure about the Frank Herbert novel until I believe the second novel. I think that really transfers your knowledge of who Paul is. Frank was not shy about saying, you know, putting his stamp on whether this guy's a good guy or a bad guy on that second movie. So yeah, we're saying that the pacing of the second movie, still in non-spoiler section for everyone that has not seen this movie yet. Um, yeah, the pacing of this movie is it's I say this a lot, but it's a mixed bag. But in comparison to a lot of things, it's still a masterpiece. Now, Dune 2 does not have that three-layer act in what I felt like the first movie had. This has more of a act 1, act 2 kind of thing. In the second act of Dune, the movie Dune 2, is it feels rushed. And I think that the hardest thing to say, I don't know if you should be saying it these days, that this movie should have been a television series, because it feels like there is a condensed hour that we're still missing of this story. I enjoyed everything you got. The characters, storylines, the turns, the twist, the actual the feeling of going along this adventure and siding with the Fremen or seeing what's happened with the Harkonnens and stuff like that. It's it's an epic tale, and it's hard to condense everything. Let's just say under 3 hours. I think this movie was 2 hours 45, but it's still hard to condense everything that Villeneuve has condensed in that short amount of time. If you thought about it as a 3 hour, like a mini series, it would be 3 hour mini series. I feel like it easily could have been 5 hours, 6 hours maybe. But there are parts of the film that feel rushed, and I didn't feel that in the first film. I didn't love the first film until I rewatched it several times, and then I just wanted to be in the world, and I was like, I had this tremendous respect for that first film, because I think I had watched it originally on due to it being in 2021. HBO Max released everything day and date, and so from there I watched it on HBO Max, and then we watched it, I believe, in Austin, Texas, in the IMAX there, and I was just like, this is one of my favorite worlds to live in, to be in, to want to experience, and I couldn't have been more excited for Dune 2. So, with saying all of that, I still had a wonderful time. I had, probably more quibbles with this second movie than I did the first movie, but mostly because they both kind of end in the same way. I'd say it's 80% a story and 20% a massive cliffhanger. And I can understand the first movie doing it, but the second movie doing it again, having saying, and then there's more, and to be continued kind of thing. And with the director coming out, the studios coming out, everyone kind of coming out and saying, yeah, that third movie ain't happening for quite a while. It's like, oh God, well, leaving us on a massive cliffhanger like that is not exactly my forte. More recently, I've been enjoying more complete stories. I think if I go back and look at the top 10 movies of last year, just about the majority of them were either completing a story or had a complete thought or a complete story in mind, and it didn't have these 10-minute segments of to be continued kind of thing. And I think there's kind of a difference between saying that there's more story to be told versus like, holy shit, there's a whole mother chapter you need to see, man. And I felt like they were doing the latter. They're like, it feels like the person that's inside the party and telling you how much fun the party is while you're outside the party, and you're like, son of a bitch, either let me in or give me a ticket or whatever. How long until I can get into this party? How long till I can get into the Dune 3 party? And if you're gonna give me a big, like, I don't know, like, Villeneuve is coming out straight up saying like, I think he had threaded, posted, whatever, something like the screenplay of the third movie is still in its like embryo chamber or something like that. I don't know. Use some weird, some interesting like metaphors or anything like something like that. And I was like, okay, so it is going to be quite a while. And knowing that, I'm like, you know, I don't know Zendaya's future in this. I don't know what Chalamet's future is in this. I could see them easily signing up for this because of how successful the movie is now. It was kind of hard to tell originally how successful the original movie was going to be, because of the COVID of it all, and because it was day and day release. So it was just hard to tell how much that first movie was going to actually make. I do think they actually did release Dune 1 a little bit before Dune 2. With the success of Dune 1, I'm hearing that like a third of the screens that tickets are being sold are actually going to IMAX screens or some sort of specialty screening. I don't think they did like 3D or anything like that. That's not popular as of right now, but like 4DX and stuff that would require, bonus screens and additional fees to the ticket. This is really popular with this experience as well. In this movie, oh my god, this movie from like a visceral and actual movie experience, like holy shit. It's very rare that I'm actually gripping onto the fucking seat thinking that I'm on a fucking ride. But I thought I was going to get thrown out of this at one point. I was like, this is fucking nuts. And I was I was here for it. I've seen the movie twice. I need to go see it in IMAX. I have not seen it in IMAX, but I felt like I was in IMAX just watching it on the biggest screen I could find. But I want to go back and watch it again and experience it, mostly because I'm seeing that IMAX is trying to make like a quote unquote resurgence with just, I'd see like standard movies. I saw A24 is teaming up with IMAX to bring what was it? Uncut Gems. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. A24. Like A24 and IMAX do not sound like two brands that I'd put together. I have no idea where I put my IMAX. Yeah, what are they doing? Oh, I think that I think that they're trying to do it because of the Alex Garland movie, Civil War's coming out. Which, could y'all not come up with a different fucking name or something? Like, I don't know. I love Alex Garland. I love everything he's done. He's and A24 is picking out some bangers to put out there for IMAX. I know in some cities, I'm not, check your local listings obviously, but having IMAX A24, it's like, give me the biggest screen you got. I'm curious if these are still going to be like, since they're re-releasing movies, if it's the same price or what. I have no idea. But let me see if I can't pop this up here. Yeah, so what do they got? They got some great bangers. I love these movies. A24 and IMAX are bringing Ex Machina March 27th, Hereditary April 24th, and Uncut Gems May 22nd, I think. And I think that's all kind of like leading up to it says, the AV Club says, A24 is bringing its most stressful movies to IMAX. So it's just like, you want stressful? Let's put it real fucking big. I'm curious about like these stretched out movies. The thing about IMAX is that they're shot on like IMAX cameras. There's specific like, there's so many specifications when you have to shoot in IMAX, and you have to understand that. I'm curious if you can just stretch out these movies, or how they're reformatted to be on IMAX, and if if you've been in IMAX, like sometimes the aspect ratio be changing all the time. Like, is the aspect ratio going to be changed on here? I'm a little in the dark about what's going on here. So, yeah, let's hop in to the spoiler section. Let me see. Did this sandworm bucket sell? Oh, it's sold. Oh my gosh. Dune Ussy. Oh, it's terrible. Let me see. 81, 66, $90. It's the last one, everybody. Get it while it's hot. All right. We're getting ready to talk about Dune 2 in spoiler section. All right, so if you have not seen Dune 2, then get your ass. You better get your ass. You better get your ass. Get your ass out of here. Get your Dune ass out of here. Okay, I've come to the realization that I am not going to be able to pronounce everything right because there's not a technical. I mean, it's not a real. I don't know, but what is this? Not. It's not a real language. I guess it's all made up. So, yeah, I'm not offending anyone. So thank goodness. We should be good there. Anyways, let's see. We're gonna cut that. Okay, so here is the plot for Dune 2. And yeah, I do have a couple of notes here on this real quick. Sorry if you hear it. Hold on. Let me see. All right, no, never mind. Okay, so for the Dune trailers real quick. Right before we get into spoilers, I want to talk about the trailers. I went back and watched the first trailer, second trailer, and third trailer. First one looks like it's based off, has a big chunk of what the story is going to be. It was released like 10 months ago, I believe, and it's crazy to believe that we've almost been in the cycle of the promotion of this movie for like 8 months, and then it kept on getting pushed back and back and back and back and back and back because of the writer strikes and everything, rightly, so that everyone would get properly paid. And yeah, the second trailer has more of like, expresses more of the Paulness of it, shows kind of more of what he's doing in it, and the epicness of the scale of like what I guess if any. I think Denis Villeneuve had said that if you hadn't seen Dune 1, you should be able to understand Dune 2, and I'd say pretty much you can. They're very much, even though they fit hand in glove, like two puzzle pieces, I'd say that the second movie still explains a lot of what happened with the first one, So, and number 3 is it's the third trailer that they showed when the actual movie was released, which shows entirely too much. We're going to start getting into spoilers right now, so prepare. But I think the spoilers start in the trailer section, to be honest. Like, the trailers spoil Zendaya fighting in one of the ways that Paul saw himself fighting in the first movie, and then it shows I think his name was Genji, which was the Josh Brolin character, I believe, coming back. I was like, well, way to spoil all that. I had heard in the grapevine that he might be coming back, but I was like, oh, you didn't have to spoil that. Like, in the way that the movie was kind of shot, that it feels like there was no, it really was more like a middle act kind of thing. Like, oh shit, he's back, he's all right, kind of thing. And of course they had to sell the worms. I think they held most of the worms back and most of the marketing material until the third movie. The third trailer of the movie, and I was like, come on, I was like, you're really gonna spoil us like that? And then every single publication used Dune 2 is a massive success. I didn't see it the first week, so I saw it the second week, and I'm recording it now the end of the second week. The movie was promoted everywhere with the 3 giant worms going after the Harkonnens, and I'm like, good God, can y'all stop spoiling your goddamn movie? I was like, this is why I don't watch that shit. I was like, I can barely read the news without getting fucking spoiled and all this shit. So, anyways, I was kind of bitter a little bit about getting spoiled on that, but I was like, it's you take some, you lose some. Anyways, that's why I don't really watch this trailers, because they just be showing the whole fucking movie. And they did. I watched all 3 of those trailers. I was like, yeah, they basically they show some of the best stuff, in my opinion. And I was like, spoiling it for everybody. So let's get to the plot of the movie. Princess Irulan. Spoilers ahead. Princess Aurelian Corino secretly records in her journal that Paul Atreides may still be alive, while her father, Potish Emperor Shaddam the Fourth, is dispirited after plotting the fall of House Atreides. And because I am a nerd, I understand that entire sentence. And if you watch the first movie, you would too. But these are basically characters that I believe are in the first movie that were exercised for the first movie so that it would take place in more of Paul's head, to my knowledge. In the original 1980s movie, what is it, like a 1984 or something like that, with David Lynch directing it. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years since I've seen it, because I watched it right after I watched the 2021 version. But I believe that movie has a voiceover that starts similarly out as this Dune 2 does, and it has that Princess Irulian voice doing the voiceover of the movie, and kind of doing a hell of a lot more explaining than necessary, which is kind of what happens in that entire 1980s movie, is that the character of Paul Atreides is just explaining everything in his head in voiceover, which is just unnecessary to a more sophisticated audience these days, which is what we kind of are. Tip of the hat. Anyways, let's continue on with the plot. So anyways, Princess Aurelian Corino actually is played by Florence Pugh, and Potish Emperor Shaddam is played by Christopher Walken, and they both, I would say, did approximately 3 days of shooting on set. The entire movie kind of just has them kind of looking disparagingly about like what has happened to House Atreides, and what they have kind of what they've done to House Atreides, and that kind of thing. And they are sold as being in the movie a lot more than they actually are. I would say that there's just a handful of scenes with them actually doing anything or talking. So don't expect, if you're in this spoiler section, you haven't seen the movie for whatever reason, that they're going to be in there too much. But yeah, on Arrakis, Stilgars. Oh, forgot to give my rating before we hopped into the spoiler section, but for anyone that is like, yeah, I'm giving a rating, 8. I'm giving a flat 8, and I'm going to give my reasonings why, but it was the pacing on that second half that really solidified it. So let's continue on. And a number really doesn't matter. It can always change. It's just kind of like for subjugation of where it is on the, the list of things. So on Arrakis, Stilgars Fremen's troops include Paul and Lady Jessica overcome a Harkonnen patrol. When Jessica and Paul reach Siege Tiber, some Fremen suspect they are spies, while Stilgar and others see signs of the prophecy that a mother and son from the outer world will bring prosperity to Arrakis. So essentially, what the hell? What's his name? Javier Bardem. Why is he at the bottom? He's in this movie just as much as Paul. Why is he at the bottom? Javier Bardem is basically playing the guy that I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he's just enthralled with the savior that is Paul Atreides. He thinks that Paul is Muad'Dib. He's as written. He's the one that was chosen, the great Messiah that has been brought back to lead them all, kind of thing. And of course, we have the Zendaya of it all, who is the kind of the fraction that is like, I don't know if we believe that. Maybe we shouldn't believe this guy that's coming in and just claiming to be the one that can be the what is it, the Usul or Muad'Dib, or the one that is supposed to lead them all. She's the skeptic. So it's kind of, the movie is very much trying to be the the believers versus the skeptics, and they're all within the fraction of the Fremen, which are being led by Rebecca Ferguson's character, who is Lady Jessica, who has just now become a Bene Gesserit, who is kind of like the spiritual religious leader of their sect or community. And it's a little bit like, outsiders coming in to kind of lead the pact a little bit. But I know that Frank Herbert has written it in a way that is supposed to be suspect of it. And us having seen the entire thing, seen what happens at the end, I do want to talk about, we know that Paul is bound for the opposite of greatness. He's supposed to be, you know, he's supposed to be great, but he ends up not being great. He's supposed to be the Messiah. He's not going to be the Messiah. He's going to turn to the dark side in the ways that we've seen in Revenge of the Sith type ways. And the problem with the way the movie lays it out, and we'll continue on obviously talking about it a little bit more detail, but just to kind of get on what my actual gripe is of the movie, is the turn from Paul Atreides being kind of just this relative leader of the Fremen to being kind of this more sinister, undertoned, what do we call it? Not quite a fascist, but fascist is not the right word. He's trying to be like an authoritarian figure in a way. I believe is the right word. If I'm saying the governmental terms wrong, then let me know. Let me know what he's actually trying to be. But he's trying to be more of a dictator-esque, and I think the turn of him turning, from good to bad happened so fast, and the 2 hours and 45 minutes were there. I felt like we should have felt that a little bit more. And so that's why I'm sticking with a closer 8, that the pacing did not allow for our main character to effectively switch sides, in my opinion. If you think he did, then you totally let me know. Or if it was, foretold or as written, this entire time that he was going to be bad. But I didn't feel like there was enough sinisterness under him before, in the earlier tones in the movie, before things really kind of got shuffled in with Chani, and before he becomes more embracing more of the Fremen. I just felt like it became so rushed towards the middle, and at the end it just became got to hit these beats that I would love to see a 4-hour cut of this movie where we got to see these more intricate conversations. The best thing about Game of Thrones was that we did have the big epicness scale of it, but we also got like entire episodes that were some of the best episodes of just intricate talking of behind the scenes betrayals and backstabbings and just very behind the closed doors type stuff. And I felt like we were missing a couple of those scenes and conversations between a lot of our main characters, maybe even between Chani, and my main thing was I didn't feel the biggest disparage between the two fractions. It seems like they're shown at the beginning of the movie, which they're talked about right here basically, and then it feels like they're forgotten through the middle of the section of the movie, and then at the end Johnny's like, oh yeah, I'm a non-believer by the way, and I'm just gonna peace out kind of thing. And so it's like I think that would be, when I keep thinking about this movie, and when I wanted to do the movie review, what was really going to, stir the pot from me myself, and I think it's the turn. So let's continue. Stilgar tells Jessica their Reverend Mother is dying and that she must become her replacement by drinking the water of life, a fatal poison for males and the untrained. I thought it was kind of funny when she tells that to Paul, and he's just like, oh, okay. And basically, I think we figure out the water of life is just like squeezed from like baby sandworms. Am I right? Am I wrong about that? So Jessica transmutes the poison, surviving and inheriting the memories of every female ancestor in her lineage. The liquid also prematurely awakens the mind of her unborn daughter, Alia, allowing Jessica to communicate with her, which we do get a flash of Alia as Anya Taylor Joy on the beach. And I felt like she was really advertised with this movie too. It's like we get maybe 10 seconds of her. Anyways, so this is kind of another subplot that I feel like is it continues to happen throughout the movie once or twice throughout the beats that we get, but I don't know if we 100% get the gratification of understanding what this means, that Lady Jessica, kind of the old Lady Jessica, the Dune 1 Lady Jessica, she's basically like incoherent into being this like Dr. Manhattan-esque Lady Jessica, where she can basically just she knows future things, and she's got these powers, and she's got this Benny Gesserit look on, and she's got this entire look. I like the look and everything, but I did miss kind of having the more stable-headed Lady Jessica in our midst. So we do kind of miss this character a little bit, in my opinion, because she kind of becomes more of a cipher for what the baby is, or the unborn sister is saying to Paul. They agree to focus on convincing the more skeptical northern Fremen of the prophecy. And when they agree to that, I feel like we see two scenes of that. I think it's two scenes actually, that now that I'm actually thinking about it, of them actually being convinced, and most of it has to do with just Paul being able to ride the worm, if you know what I mean. So with Paul being able to, we'll talk about that in a second, but I was like, all right, well, I guess y'all just convinced everybody. I don't know. And I felt like the society was a little bit hard to navigate, to understand where we were in location. I was kind of like trying to understand how far we had gone. Are we still at some of these people's houses? How big does this house go? How, the Fremen society, they're living in like the hills and the dunes and stuff like that. It was just very hard to kind of get a grasp of where I was geographically a lot throughout the movie. So I did feel a little bit like I was catching up. I was like, the whole time trying to figure out if I was getting ready to get eaten by a worm or not, if I was at someone's house. So I. Going continuing on with that, a little bit of the spatial awareness, I was a little bit just like lacking myself. So continuing on, let me see. Okay, so Shani and her friend Shashikli believe the prophecy is fabricated, a narrative made to manipulate the Fremen. When Paul delivers a speech about not seeking power but wanting only to fight alongside them, Chani helps. Chani develops. Chani helps. Chani, sorry, she doesn't help. Chani develops respect for him. Paul and Chani fall in love as Paul embraces the Fremen ways, learning their language, taking part in rites such as riding a sandworm, becoming a Fredican fighter, and helping a raid Harkonnen spice operations. So basically, these are things that are happening kind of in like giant succession of like big montages in a way. It's not like the Rocky montage where he's just going through all these and doing all these da na 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 na. Paul Atreides just going na 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 punching worms. No, he's not doing that. He's he is doing all these things. He's becoming a freedom a Fredican I almost said freedom, a Fredican fighter, which or a Fremen fighter, and all these visuals. I gotta say, from the beginning, I loved seeing those dudes just like float in the air. I think it was the Harkonnens, and they were when Paul and his mother were skirking all of them. He's like skirk, skirk, skirk. All the fighting was fucking sick at the beginning. I don't really have to like explain how the visuals made you feel and everything. It's just like from the sound and just the visuals. There's not a lot of talking in between when there's not just two individuals wanting to talk. They just might just be sitting there waiting to get a skirk on a Harkonnen and just their throat. But anyways, the Paul and Shani, they fall in love. I think it's a little bit fast that they fall in love. I feel like you would understand that Chani might be into him, but it looks like there's a lot of Fremen. It's like, really, Shani, you didn't find any of the other Fremen interesting at all? It's like someone that's within your own quote unquote community, I guess, a little bit, but it does very much evoke the the Avatar of it all, if you want to say that. Maybe Avatar technically took some notes from this movie, I guess, a little bit to an extent, but or it's kind of like a Dancing with Wolves kind of thing, when the outsider individual goes into the community of some sort of like the native individuals, and they kind of teach them their ways, and somehow he becomes the best of the best. But this is kind of the one that is supposed to go, it's supposed to flop on your head. And so continuing on, Paul adopts the Fremen names Usul and Muad'Dib, and about 15 other names, which is kind of in my notes as well, that Javier Bardem, obviously, I haven't mentioned Javier Bardem becomes a part-time comedian in this movie. He's so serious in the first one. He doesn't even want to, he barely blinks twice. He spits on, Oscar Isaac's feet and then says, "We out." And then in the second one, now he's cracking jokes and slapping Paul around a little bit, and he's funny, and I'm here for the mood change, but it did feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. So also on top of the other notes that I had, Usul and Muad'Dib, he has 30 fucking names. I can't remember all the names, but it seems like every single fraction has Quaisas Hashib or something like that the Bene Gesserits call him and stuff. Benny and the Gesserits call him. I call him Benny and the Gesserits. Makes my girlfriend laugh. So anyways, continuing on. Where are we at? Okay, so the due to the devastating, so he adopts the Usul and Muad'Dib, and we have gotten kind of not nearly as much Stellan Skarsgård as I would have liked at this point. He was as the Baron, he was just one of the most fun parts. We were seeing a lot of oh god, Dave Bautista from the first movie, and he's kind of the one going around trying to fix the things with the spice reserves and everything, but he gets attacked by Johnny and Paul, and he almost gets killed in the process. And it's a fucking bloody awesome time, which now that I think about it, and it's not a lot of blood in this movie, but anyways, don't need a lot of blood, just a lot of vig. Also, before we get into anything else, there was a kind of a misquote from Denis Villeneuve that says he doesn't like. I think he had said that he's not a big fan of writing scenes or just dialogue scenes or something like that. And he kind of came back out and said, that was kind of a misquote or something like that. But I mean, you can kind of see it here a little bit. That he's so much more of a visual spectator, in my opinion, because some of the conversations I feel like that are chosen feel kind of repetitive in the sense, or we're hitting on the same thing again. I'm like, why are we talking about this again? I kind of wish we would get more plot things talked about in his in this 2.5 45-minute movie. It's some things do need to be discussed. Such as I felt like sometimes Paul and Shani needed to have a conversation, whereas they would just be mad at each other. So, anyways, continuing on. Due to the devastating spice raids, Baron Harkonnen replaces his nephew Robin as Arrakis's ruler for his psychotic, murderous younger nephew, Freyed Ratha. And so, which we don't really know too much about Freyed Ratha, except that he's just like crazy and maybe horny and stuff like that. And he's also groomed by the Bene and the Gesserits. And so the fact is, we're seeing one Gladiator black and white esque scene with the guy that Austin Butler, the guy that played Elvis a little bit ago, who's just apparently still stuck in the Elvis / going into a Stellan Skarsgård type voice, which I like his evokingness. I like how he's always trying to like getting to be like a chameleon kind of character, but continuing on with his look, I just thought his look, he looked like a little lizard or something like that. I was like, this guy is looking crazy. I thought he looks more crazy than actually is crazy, because he doesn't really get a lot of time to be or do a lot of crazy stuff. I could have gone a full 45 to like 50-minute episode of just seeing just Austin Butler kind of go around and act all crazy, because he does get some very interesting scenes with Leia Seydoux, and I think that his performance as this character is very noteworthy. But given that we're not going to get to see him again, it's just like, I wish I had just gotten to see more, to see why he was so crazy, just besides, stabbing the people like around him that are helping him, stuff like that. I feel like that was a little bit on the nose just to kind of do that. But I was like, all right, this is an easy way to do it. What's an easy way to show a bad guy is bad? Oh, we'll just stab the guy that's helping him. Anyways, Robin didn't really seem that effective as the entire family of the Robin, the Baron, the Harkonnen, the Freyed Ratha. All of them seem highly on edge. Need to be therapized. Need some therapy, some medication, everything. They need all that shit. So, anyways, Lady Margot Finring, Bene Gesserit, is sent to evaluate Freyd's suitability as a prospective quasi-Haderach, which is the Bene Gesserits kind of call him, like the Messiah, and who they're trying to kind of groom as a Messiah, which Paul might have been, but for some reason, what's her face, Lady Finring Margaret is like mad that, I don't know, he's like becoming a Messiah in a way. He's actually like doing well. It was like she knew that the House Atreides was going to go down, and so she was like, well, he just needs to go down too. I don't really understand why Lady Margot has such a beef against Paul, considering it feels like she tested him. She knows to a great extent his power and how well he's doing and with the Fremen. Like, so he's kind of fulfilling the prophecy in ways that you would expect, that she'd be like, oh, maybe he is the quasi Haderach or whatever the hell. So I kind of don't understand her motivation for kind of being against Paul all of a sudden, like backing the wrong horse. She's like, maybe I put money on fucking Austin Butler, and she's like, oh shit, now he's fucked up. It's like, like, what happened here? She seduces him to secure his genes. So I guess we get an off-screen buck scene between Leia Seydoux and Austin Butler, which that would have been kind of interesting. I mean, it was interesting getting up to it. I'll say that. I was like, what? I was like, wait, what's happening? And then she pulls out that box and she's like, put it in there. And he's like, wait, put what in there? So, the pain box. You don't want to go in the pain box. You can just stick your sandworm in there and fuck around and find out. So, Lady, let me see. Jessica travels south to unite the Fremen fundamentalists who believe in the prophecy. Paul stays north, fearful that the visions of a holy war. Oh, I didn't really get to talk about the experience of watching the fucking riding the sandworm that much. Real quick, Yeah, the sandworm experience. Holy Santa Claus! I was like, I thought I got sand in my eyes. I was like holding on for dear life in the fucking theater, like thinking that I was gonna get blown away. There's only like a handful of times I've actually felt like I was like flying or going through like an actual like experience in a movie theater, and that was one of them. I mean, it's absolutely going to be a movie theater experience you're not going to forget with with regards of going on riding the sandworm. It was the experience is going to be tenfolds probably in IMAX. I'm sure everybody's like, holy shit, I gotta go ride the sandworm again. And I mean, it's as close to an a simulation experience as possible. And it's like when he I don't even know how you would practice for that. It didn't even fucking make sense. Like you just throw like a hook like you're going like up a mountain or something like that, but you're riding a sandworm or something like that. And continuing on, no, we've already watched it. We're doing a little review. We've watched the entire thing, Jirok. But go back and check out the review on the VOD if you want to check out a little bit more of the behind the scenes of what we've kind of been discussing. But I appreciate you in the chat. So, anyways, the riding the sandworm was one of the best experiences in theater I've had since. I remember like in Inception and Interstellar and all those Nolan movies where you feel like you're in the experience. It feels like one of those, and it basically is like being transported into a fucking storm. And I was like, "Holy shit!" It's unlike any experience I've seen in a movie theater in last 5 years you know, talking about being in a place and having that type of experiences. I'm kind of speechless, just kind of like I want to go back and do it. I want to go back and ride the worm. Watching it on the television is not going to be the same, because most of it was the sound. Honestly, I haven't talked too much about the sound, but I think this movie's probably going to win best sound, if not a quantum of other awards as well. I don't even know how many the first one got. The first one won 6 awards at the 94th Academy Awards, include 4 other categories, including Best Picture. Yeah, I knew that it would. Yeah, it won so many awards because it was absolutely, it was an experience like none other. I mean, the list just goes on and days. So, anyways, the the movie continuing on. So yeah, Jessica travels south to unite the Fremen fundamentalist who believe in the prophecy. The fact is, we don't see but one person get on the sandworm, and when he gets on the sandworm, it looks impossible to even stay on the sandworm. He's like holding for dear life. It's like like he's like going crazy, and I felt like, how did his feet even stay on? Like, I felt like your feet would just be like dangling off, like flying backwards and shit, just going crazy. So, anyways, I was just like, God dang. Uh, but continuing on, and seeing one person get on there is like crazy enough. So we don't see how it happens, but there's like colonies of Fremen, like 30 groups of 30 hanging on to, or just chilling on to a sandworm, like they're just using it like an Uber or something like that. I was like, good God, how did they all get on there? What was the tactical nature of them all getting on there and figuring this out? Like, we don't see it, we don't know, don't ask those kind of questions. It's like, okay. Paul stays north, fearful of his visions of a holy war if he goes south as Messiah. I'm not really sure if these are quite as clear to like the standard viewer. I feel like I'm a pretty in tune viewer to what's going on, and it still felt like kind of intangible what he's talking about with these visions. It looks like his mother is walking in very slowly, and people are like dying and kind of like curling up, like almost like ants when they get like too don't have moisture, they're in the sun too long. Um, but let me see. Yeah. I don't know if it's tangible. That's my whole only thing is the tangibility of his visions from the first movie to the second one have been shown to be just kind of like what ifs, and a lot of it has been more or less like remixes of what's actually happened. And coming up in the second half of the movie is what actually does happen. So yeah, Paul stays north, while Lady Jessica goes travels south. Paul reunites with Gurney Halleck, who's shown in the trailer, in the second and third trailer. I was like, you did not have to show him in the trailer. I was like, I wanted that to be a surprise. Anyways, I heard that in the I don't remember where I heard it, but I'd seen it or heard it. He was going to be shown, or he was coming back. Who leads them to House Atreides' hidden atomic stockpile, which is like, what? Son of a. It's like, this is such a Deus Ex Machina in a way that feels like. Did Lady Jessica not know about this? Or did Paul not know about this? Or did. I guess since everyone in Paul's house went down except for Gurney, that's like, it feels kind of like, hey, what about all these weapons? And then it's like, and then it's the classic, like, you click the button and you open up into like a. You remember in like the Kingsman when they would always have those like crazy like underground like elaborate gun places, places to stash all their guns. It feels like, back in the day when they did that, or when the Matrix, when they would just be like, I need guns, lots of guns, and it's like click, and it's like all of a sudden everyone, they got guns. It's like, okay, that was quick and easy, I guess. So anyways, I just thought that was it's a little bit of a quick way to say, hey, we got power too, kind of thing. Not just ground power or desert power, but we got fire power now, atomic power. So Fade Ratha attacks Sage Tiber and kills Shashikli, forcing the survivors, including Paul, to travel south. And it happens so fast. I don't really feel, and it feels like we're just kind of like pop into where Shashikli is, or to where they are, and I don't remember it like being like a struggle to that degree. Um, and so let me see. So yeah, including Paul to travel to journey south. It forces the survivors to, including Paul, to travel south. Upon arrival, Paul drinks the water of life. Same stuff as Mom had, I believe it's that worm. He had to tackle that worm, get that thing, and falls into a coma. Um, Chani awakens him by mixing her tears with the liquid, but is angered by his actions. It's very choppy at this moment. This is where I feel like they told Villeneuve that you have gone way too long and shit needs to go. And I felt like I was holding on to the sandworm of the story, trying to figure out what was going on here, of why everyone was making all these decisions so fucking fast. I was like, oh shit, and then fucking all of a sudden Paul is drinking got the Powerade worm juice, and then he's just like, fucking, I'm bad now, bitch. I'm bad. He's dancing around like fucking Michael Jackson and bullshit. And he's um, like, you don't need to do that. I didn't understand the having to do all of this, and the transferring. And once Paul does that, similar to Lady Jessica, I feel like it gives them a reason to have a mood shift, and a reason for, oh, it's not Paul, it's the water of life juice. He's hearing all of these visions all at once. He's seeing all of these things. He's kind of going into like Mad King territory, and which is kind of interesting now that we have like, old ass leaders these days that are like 80 years old that are actually losing their minds. That's for another story. Um, in real life. But anyways, Continuing on, Paul attains a clearer vision of the past and future, seeing an adult Alea on a water-filled Arrakis and discovering Jessica is the Baron's daughter, making Paul both Atreides and Harkonnen, which is a big like holy son of a holy Lanta, son of a holy Lanta, you know? And I was like, I'm not sure if it was the reveal of it. I mean, I was definitely like, "Oh my god," in the theaters, but and it's a true like Empire Strikes Back kind of thing. But the fact that his mother knew and that his mom kind of didn't know until he knew similar at the same time, but they don't really have a intense or interesting conversation about it. I was like, this is a perfect time that it would be uh 15, 10 minute, 5 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, anytime conversation that they would have about the big fucking bad guy that just betrayed their house, is responsible for, is responsible for the entire betrayal and the destruction and the Oscar Isaac's death. Like, I felt like that was a big conversation you should probably have. I mean, in going back and watching the first one, I felt like it was like the Atreides were set up a lot by the Bene Gesserits and Benny and the Gesserits and the Emperor and the Harkonnen, and it just seems like everyone was set up against them. And I feel like that was never addressed either. Like there was a lot of like string pulling from the Benny and the Gesserits to pull down the House Atreides, I believe, at one point. So, a lot of stuff I feel like is untapped, in regards to some of these family relations. Anyways, the Southern Fremen leaders urge Paul to challenge Stilgar for leadership, but he refuses and instead galvanizes the fundamentalists by showing that he can read their innermost thoughts. He declares himself Lisan al Galib, added to the pile of names, and sends a challenge to Shaddam, who arrives on Arrakis with Irulian, Mohaim, and Siddharka troops, Siddharkar troops. And basically, the Paul basically fucks them up. I mean, they come in three hog wild. I'm talking, I mean, you see it in the trailer if you haven't seen the actual movie, but three fucking massive ass worms just plowing house. I was like, if you think about it, that probably should have been the first move in the first movie. Just use the worm. If you can ride the worm, you can probably do the whole thing. I mean, similar to in what was it, not Avengers, Avatar. Avatar in both movies, horror nature to, strike back kind of shit. So, anyways, it feels like they use kind of like, desert power, so to speak, and they overtake basically the Emperor and all the bad guys, all his troops, in like what feels like 15 minutes at most. And then there's a one-on-one with Paul and Austin Butler, what the fuck's his name? Frade Ratha, which is actually his cousin. So let me continue on to kind of give that a little bit more in depth. The Fremen launch a massive military strike to overwhelm Shaddam's forces using atomics and sandworms. They overpower Shadar while while Paul kills the Baron. The Baron is basically useless this entire movie. It feels like in trying to I guess come back to life from whatever Oscar Isaac poisoned his ass with. I mean, he's taking baths. He's killing his inner staff for not for things not going his way. And what else? And he's going around with this like drone that is flying around behind him, and it's attached. There's tubes attached to his ass, and basically, I think it's keeping him alive. And basically, as all of this is happening, and the Emperor is chilling right there. You got Morgan Freeman going talking like he's still from Brooklyn and stuff, even though he's still in on Arrakis and in this like world of like 10,000 AD or whatever the hell, whatever year this is, and so anyways, Baron gets his life support sliced from him, and so he's just like, oh my god, I'm on my air. He's fallen and he can't get up. He needs life support, and he ain't gonna get it. Paul walks up to him, takes a knife, and he's like, grandfather, and slices him directly in the neck, and yeah, and it's over for the Baron. This is I I guess that's about as good as it's gonna get. I mean, what kind of conversation are you gonna have? And he's got his revenge. He basically says, Christopher Walken, I'm gonna take Florence Pugh as my wife, and ain't nothing you can do about it. And I think it said something like it was based off of the challenge of the Austin Butler fighting him and stuff like that. And I think Walken still says no. So let me continue on to get this correct before I fuck up the rest of the story, just making shit up. So anyways, the Fremen launch a massive military strike to overwhelm Saddam's forces using atomics and sandworms, which, if they have these atomic stockpile, then I guess that's kind of like the Deus Ex Machina, the things that allows them to win pretty easily. They overpower the Sardaukar. Paul kills the Baron and takes Shaddam and his entourage captive. Gurney intercepts and kills a fleeing Raban, which is Dave Bautista's character. Paul challenges Saddam for the throne, demanding Irulian's hand in marriage, Florence Pugh. Previously summoned by the Baron, the Great Houses arrive in orbit. Paul threatens to destroy the spice fields with the atomics if they intervene. Remember, the spice fields are like the source of power. Saddam chooses Freyr Ratha as his champion, and Paul kills him in a knife duel. It is just blatantly in this sense, just ends it like that. It basically is just like that. I mean, it's kind of an interesting fight, and all the fighting in the movie is done really well and in wide shot. I was like, thank God it doesn't feel like I can't see what's going on or it's some sort of incoherent mess. It always feels like it's shot in wide shot, really shot blocked, very impressively and stuff like that. So I've always enjoyed it. Basically, all of the action in the movie is 10 out of 10. My only quibbles are basically with the story, and kind of the turn and shift. So, anyways, Saddam kills Austin Butler in a knife duel. His cousin Freyr Ratha is dead now. So Irulian agrees to Paul's request for marriage on the condition that her father lives. Saddam kneels and kisses Paul's signet ring above. I can't do a Christopher Walken accent. That is an extremely hard accent. The commercial that the Super Bowl was making fun of, it's hard. It's hard. So, the houses reject Paul's ascendancy. I wasn't above Arrakis. The Great Houses reject Paul's ascendancy. So Paul orders the Fremen to attack the orbiting fleet, as Stilgard leads the Fremen onto the captured Sardaukar ships. Jessica and Alia see this as the beginning of Muad'Dib's holy war. And Shani refuses to bow to Paul and departs alone on a sandworm. And just, 2 cents on Shani kind of leaving. I mean, Paul didn't really say that he was going to choose Shani and Irulian's hand. He was mostly just like, I'll always be with you, Johnny. I'm always gonna be a man's. I'll be your boy, and you be my girl, unless I'm running this bitch. Then I'm gonna need a queen. And so he just changes his mind for like what feels like kind of no reason. Well, there's a strong reason. It's all about if you've seen the if you've seen the actual what's it called? If you've actually seen like a Game of Thrones or something like that, a lot of them kind of go through the minute of having to go through these marriages of houses and stuff like that. Like you understand the marriages of houses. If you've seen some of these kind of relationships having to form in these types of content and stuff like that. So the hierarchy and whatnot. But he didn't discuss that with her at all, man. I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? I was like, why you gonna do that? You gonna put that Sunday? Why you like that? I was like, God dang, man. It was just. I felt like I heard the entire theater shift each time. They're like, damn it, Paul. Like everybody would say something. But yeah, that was the Dune 2 movie review. Let me know what you thought about Dune 2 the movie. Let me know what you thought about the review. Let me know how I can improve. Obviously, let's see if you need to go check out the Dune 2 movie buckets if they're still available. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got available here? Dune 2 movie buckets. We got one going on eBay. I'm not selling these, but someone's selling these things. AMC Dune Part 2 Sandworm popcorn bucket, $67. 7 bids right now. Get them while I'm hot. I don't know if you'd want a popcorn bucket that's hot, but we'll just continue. $91. It says Dune Ussy free shipping. That's a steal right there, everyone. So you know what to do. Check out lookitoutpodcast.com. We have all the links down below on there. Check out SoundCloud, wherever you find, or YouTube, Spotify, what all this, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, live on Twitch right now, post on Threads almost every day. Support the podcast, Patreon, PayPal, you know what to do. Take it easy. All right, everyone. We are calling it on that one. Thank you for joining us on the live stream. Let me know how I can improve. Thank you for jumping in the chat. Be sure to check out the VOD. We just dropped the Oscar Talk and Aftercast 38 for the cast. So be sure to check out all the content we have coming down the pipe. More content coming down soon. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. You know what to do. Take it easy.